Welcome to the video tutorials for the Sweet Shop blanket. This is section 1, the Sunburst Granny Square. I'm going to be working with the colours for the pink and lilac version. And this is all I have left since my blanket is now complete. This is all I have left of the yarn. So hopefully we'll have enough. This is the variegated, the Pebble Haze prints, and that's what I'm going to use for the centre. The off-white is what I'll use for the background, and then I've got this little bit to do the outside edge. I'm working as usual with my 4mm crochet hook because this is a DK double knit weight. So first of all, I need to just put a slip knot onto my hook, and the way I do that is I bend my yarn into a loop, put the long end behind and just pull it through. There are lots of ways of making a slip knot, that's just mine. And then I'm going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And pop your hook into the very first chain and make a slip stitch. And by doing that, you are closing up that chain of 4 into a circle. And there's a hole in the middle. And in the middle of that hole is where you're going to be putting your stitches for round 1. So round 1, we're going to be working with treble stitches, which is the UK term. And in the US, it's double crochet. To start with, I'm going to chain 2, and that is the equivalent of the first treble stitch. Then I've got 15 trebles to put into that center hole. So yarn over, put my hook into the hole, yarn over and pull up a loop so that you've got 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over, pull through the first 2, so that you've got 2 loops left, yarn over and pull through those 2, and that's a treble crochet stitch. And then you've got another 14 to make going in, so I'll just make another one slowly. Pull through 2, pull through 2, and continue round, working into the center each time. Filling up this space. So there you can see it's beginning to look like a wheel or a circle. So I'm going to go back and count that very first chain 2 as number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I've done 12. Now there are 16 stitches altogether, including the chain 2. So I've done 12 so far, so I've got to do 13, 14, 15, and 16. Oops, did I not yarn over for that one? So that's round 1, but just before, because I'm still chatting along as I'm doing it, I'm going to double check that I have 16 stitches. So counting the chain 2 as number 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16, so that's okay. It's very important that you have the correct count because the rest of the square will be out if it's not. Now, very often you're told to slip stitch to close off the circle into the top of the first chain 2, but in this case I think it's probably better to go to the very first trebles, the top of the first treble stitch. Now you can see that because there's the chain 2, 1, 2, and the treble stitch is a lot bigger, and it's much easier to slip stitch into that to close off the square, off the circle. So that is round 1. Let me see if I get it into camera properly. That's round 1 of the Sunburst granny square. Now for round 2, we're going to be making what's called a puff stitch, and we're going to work exactly into that first treble stitch from the last round. So that's where we finished, and that's where we're starting the new round. So for round 2, just chain 1 this time, and we're going to start the puff stitch. So yarn over, put your hook back into that same treble stitch and pull up a loop, and you've got 3 loops on your hook. Without doing anything else to pull through, you're going to yarn over and go back into that same treble stitch and pull up a loop, and you've now got 5 loops, as you can see, on your hook. Yarn over, go back into that very same stitch and pull up a loop, and you've got 7 loops. And at this point you're going to yarn over and just pull through all 7 of those loops, and that is making a nice little puff stitch. Chain 1 just to finish that stitch off, and then you're going to repeat the same thing in the very next stitch. So it's yarn over into the next stitch and pull up your yarn, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over into the same stitch and pull up your yarn, and yarn over into the same stitch and pull up your yarn. 7 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 7 and chain 1. So I am going to work all the way round, and when I come back I'll be at the end and I will have 16 of these puff stitches. I've worked just about all the way round now with my puff stitches, and I'm going to just, you can see that there's 2 stitches left, but that means that there should be 14 of these puff stitches made, and I'm just going to check. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So in these 2 stitches, that's this one here and this one here, we've got 2 more puff stitches to make. So yarn over and pull through, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. So that's 3 times you pull through, and you have 7 loops, yarn over, pull through all 7, chain 1. And then this is the very last stitch to put in. It's just a little bit smaller, so you just need to make your hook find that space to go in, pull it through and pull through all 7, chain 1. And that's the end of round 2. Now we need to close that off, and to do that I'm going to go right over to the gap between the first and second of these puff stitches, put my hook in and pull it through with a slip stitch. And what you can see happening is this lovely variegated yarn is just changing colour as we work round in the circle. Now for round 3, I'm going to chain 1 again, and I didn't say, but I'm not turning the work over after each round. It's all worked on the one side. So I've chained 1, and I'm going to go into the space between the 2 puff stitches this time to make a bobble stitch. So to do that, I'm going to yarn over. This is going to be slightly different from round 2. Yarn over, go into that space, pull up a loop, and you've got 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through the first 2, leaving 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over, go into the same space, yarn over and pull up your loop, so that you have 4 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through 2, leaving 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, in again to the same space, yarn over and pull up your loop, and you've got 5 loops. Yarn over and pull through the first 2, leaving 4 on your hook. And for the final time, we're going to go in to the same space, yarn over, pull up the loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2, and what you have now are 5 loops on your hook. And at this point, I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 5. So you can see it does make a slightly different stitch to the puff stitch, slightly bigger. And we're going to chain 2 this time. So I'll do that again. Into the next space, so there's nice big spaces between those puffs to go into. So you're yarning over, going in and pulling up a loop, 3 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, that's 2 loops, yarn over, go back in again and pull up a loop, 4 loops, go back, yarn over and pull through 2 so that you've got 3 loops, yarn over, go back in, pull up your loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and that you've got 4 loops. And then the last time is 5 loops, and yarn over and pull through all 5 and chain 2. So you want to end up with 5 loops on your hook, which means that you've inserted your needle 4 times into the space. So I'll do that once more, and that's yarn over into the next space. Did I chain 2? Yes. Into the next space, yarn over and pull up a loop, 3 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, 2 loops, yarn over into the same space, yarn over, pull up your loop, 4 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, 3 loops, yarn over into the same space, yarn over, pull up a loop, 5 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, 4 loops, yarn over into the same space, yarn over, pull up your loop, yarn over, pull through 2, 5 loops, and then yarn over and pull through all 5 and chain 2. So I will work all the way round with round 3, and I'll see you when I get to the end of it. And here is how the circle is looking now that we're nearly at the end of round 3. I've got 15 bobble stitches, and I've just got one more space to put the 16th one in. So I'll just do that again. It's yarn over and pull up your loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up your loop, pull through 2, and repeat that, pull through 2, and repeat it. So it's 4 times that you're putting your hook into the space, and you end up with 5 loops on your hook, and pull through all 5 and chain 2. And then, just like we did with round 2, I'm going to look for the gap between the first cluster and the second cluster and just make a slip stitch. And that is the circular part of the Sunburst Granny Square complete. So you can cut the yarn and just pull it through, and that is ready to start the next colour. Now this centre will get sewn in tight, but what I want to suggest, and this is where I part company a little from the original pattern, is I want to turn this onto the wrong side, or the reverse side. There's not a right or wrong. If you look closely at the front side uppermost, it's very pretty and it's what it should be, but it is to me just a little bit flat. If I turn it over to the other side, I think there's a lot more texture going on there, and I'm going to make that the front. So I've turned my circle over. You can decide whether you want to do that or not. It's not going to affect the pattern, particularly for the blanket, but I like the textured look of the reverse side uppermost. I think you get more value for the yarn that you've used. So with that in mind, this end here, which is the first tail, needs to be popped through to the other side for sewing in. And you'll just put that on your needle, weave it round one direction and then another direction, a third direction if you like, pulling it really tightly to close it up, and that is your circle complete. Now, what we're going to do now is turn that circle into a square using the off-white yarn. And this again is where I differ slightly from most of the original patterns. It doesn't matter which space from round 3 that you start in. I'm just going to put my hook into any of them and attach the yarn. Now we're going to make the first half of the corner first of all, and in most patterns you will see that you have to put in a double treble stitch to get the height of your corner. Personally, I'm not a fan of the long crochet stitches. I prefer the ones I will use a double treble where it's necessary, but I don't really like getting any longer than a treble stitch. So I have decided to keep my corners as trebles. So I'm going to chain 2, which is the equivalent of the first treble stitch, and then I'm going to put 2 more treble stitches into that space, and that is the first half of a corner. We won't finish that corner until we've come all the way round. And you can see that you've got this little half of a corner made. Now, because I've made my tallest stitch a treble stitch, I want to get slightly smaller as I go along the side, and that makes it into a straight edge. So the next stitch down in size from a treble is a half treble. So I'm going to put 3 half trebles into the next space along, and to make a half treble, yarn over, put your hook into the space and pull up your loop, and you've got 3 loops on the hook. Then yarn over and pull through all 3. And you can see that it is making a stitch that's just a little bit smaller than the treble. So this is a half treble. Yarn over, put your hook into the same space, yarn over and pull up your loop, yarn over and pull through all 3. And we'll do that once more. You're going to be using the half treble a lot when it comes to the joining stitches. Now, next one along, we want to get smaller still. So the next stitch down from a half treble is what's called a double crochet. And if you're in the US, don't get mixed up, because this is where we start to get complicated with the different names for stitches. In the UK, a double crochet is a small stitch, and it is the equivalent of single crochet in the US. So if you're in the US, you're going to be making 3 single crochet stitches. In the UK, they're double crochet. So next space along, I'm not going to yarn over. I'm just going to put my hook in and pull up the loop so that you've got 2 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through them both. And you can see again, that's a smaller stitch again. So don't yarn over, that's just bad habits. In without yarning over, pull up your loop and pull through 2. In, pull up the loop and pull through 2. And that is 3 double crochet stitches. And if I put that down, you can see that the circle is now being squared off. You've got a straight edge instead of the curved edge. Now we need to get slightly bigger again until we get to the next corner. So we're going to repeat the second one along and put in 3 half treble stitches. 1, 2, 3, and then we're on to a corner, and for this we're going to put in 3 treble stitches. That's 1, 2, and 3, and that's the first half of that corner. And then to make the actual right angle itself, I'm going to put in 2 chains and then 3 more treble stitches into the same space, and that makes a nice right angled corner. If I put that down, you can see that corner. And then we just need to repeat that. So it's the next one along, our 3 half trebles, 1, 2, 3, 3 doubles, 1, 2, 3, 3 half trebles again, and then on to the next corner. 3 trebles, 1, 2, 3, chain 2, and 3 trebles. Before I continue, I'll just lay that down and let you see what it's looking like. So I'm going to go on and come round with the other 2 sides, and I'll see you when we get back to this beginning corner. Now I have just about completed the 4th side. I've just got 3 half trebles to put in this space. 1, 2, 3. And then I'm back at that first corner where we started, and I had only got 3 stitches in that one. So I've got to finish it off with 3 trebles. 1, 2, 3. And then chain 2 to make the right angle. And then you can slip stitch into the top of the first treble stitch. And there we have round 4 of the Sunburst Granny Square. We've got another round to make of the off-white colour, so we don't need to finish the yarn off, we just need to chain 2, and this time we're going to turn it over and work the next round on this side of the square. So because I've turned it over, my chain 2 is now sitting right at the extreme right side of this corner. So I'm going to make a complete corner. Chain 2, treble 2, chain 2 for the right angle, and then treble 3. And you just need to remember that when you've come round all 4 sides, that this corner has already been done in its entirety, so you don't need to add 3 more trebles in. As you can see, it's a complete corner, and we've got our straight edge now, so we don't need to do any shaping. I'm just going to go into the next space along and put 3 trebles, and again into the next space with 3 trebles, and we've got 2 more spaces before the next corner. This one is a little bit more tricky to see because it's the small double crochet stitches, so just make sure that your hook finds the space and put in the 3 trebles. And then there's the last space before the corner. 1, 2, 3. And that's what it's looking like now, nice and straight. And then into the corner with 3 trebles, chain 2 and 3 trebles, and so on. So again, I will go all the way round, and I'll see you when I get back. I'll just have to pull this one back. I'll see you when I get back to this point. So now I have just about finished round 4, and you can see that it's a nice straight-edged square now, and I haven't had to use the longer stitches in the corner. So I've come all the way round, and all I need to do is slip stitch into the first treble stitch of this corner, because we did do the complete corner first time. And there we go. And I can cut my yarn now, because that's me finished with the off-white. Now remember, we had this, or I decided that this was going to be the back of my circle. So I'm going to turn this over again. Right, let's have a look. We've got the reverse side of the circle, and then we turned it over, so the first round of the off-white is on the front, and then we turned it again, so this way up, the second round of the off-white is on its reverse side uppermost now, because I've just turned it, and this is the front of the square. You can put a stitch marker in somewhere just to remind you that that's the front. And we've got one more round to do before we leave the square, and I suggest you make up all the squares that you need to make before we start joining. So I'm going to take my variegated yarn again, and I'm going to go into the corner, any corner, and attach my yarn. And this time I'm going right back down to the small double crochet stitch, single crochet if you're in the US. So for that I just need to chain 1, and then I'm going to put 2 single crochet stitches into the corner, and the single crochet you're just going in without yarning over first, pulling up your loop, 2 loops on the hook, and pull through 2, and that's your single crochet. So I've got 2 of these to put in for my corner. Now the single crochet is a small stitch, and it's not going to be too happy jumping from this point right across to the next gap. So I'm going to chain 1 this time, just to help the yarn get over that cluster of 3 trebles, and then I'm going to put 3 single double crochets. I'm getting my US and UK terms mixed up. 3 double crochets into the next space, and chain 1, and 3 double crochets. And chain 1. And that's all you need to do to work all your way round. When you get to the corner, it's DC3, chain 2, DC3, and round to where you started. So that's round 6, and I'll see you at the other end. I've gone round all 4 sides now, and I just have this very first corner to complete because it was only half made. So I just need to put in 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3. So here is your finished Sunburst granny square. I've come all the way round with my DC round, and you just had to finish off that first corner with DC3, chain 2, and slip stitch into the top of the first DC. And I think it's looking nice and square. I do always like when I outline something with a small stitch like that, just how crisp the corners are. This is the correct way up now because this is the wrong side of the circle and the final round is on its right side, and that's how we can tell which way up your square should be. So your final round is just as you finished it. You don't turn it over again. So that's it. Now you've got 63 more to make, and the pattern gives you the colours and the quantities for each colour to make. So you've got fun ahead as you see all these different colours appearing, particularly in the variegated. This is the Saltburn colour because it changes so much, and it's such fun seeing the colours as they appear. So I will see you when you've got your squares done and you're ready to start section 2, joining them.